Hi guys, it's Matt here, and today I want to quickly talk about why grammar and learning grammar is kind of a waste of time during language learning. So the reason I want to go into this is because there's a lot of people out there that think that studying grammar is necessary, and even during the methods that I talk about, some people still don't quite get the role that grammar plays in the process. So I want to kind of talk about it a bit more and just go into a little bit more depth so that people are a bit more clear on as to how to actually use grammar in language learning, and instead of learning it, learning how to understand it, if that makes sense. So the standard methods for learning grammar tend to be to buy like your standard textbook, like Genki or whatever textbook it would be for the language you're learning, and then just following the little practice questions and trying to conjugate verbs and stuff like that, right? Now, I'll just say it outright, that stuff is useless. It is not going to help you understand, actually trying to learn all the grammar rules. That's not going to help you with actually speaking the language. Now, this is because you tend to start thinking, when you go to output the language, when you go to speak, when you go to write, you start tending to think in grammar rules, and you start trying to think, I want to say this, I kind of feel like I want to say this in English. How would I say that in Japanese? I need these grammar rules, so I will try and build a sentence with that. Now, that is not going to get you very far because Japanese is completely different to English. You cannot translate from one to the other. You'll just end up saying gibberish, and it will not make any sense. And you can't build your own sentences without having heard the language a lot first, because there are a variety of ways of like nuances for saying things. So you could say, I would like some water. Please, may I have some water? Please, may I have some of your delicious, luxurious water? There are various different nuances, and you could sort of change it up a little bit. However, you kind of need to know how a Japanese person is actually going to say it first before you actually want to say what they would say in that situation, right? So if you want to say, I want some water, then you need to have heard that from an actual Japanese person before you can say it yourself, because you won't know how it's said correctly in that situation. So you can't learn grammar rules, learn the vocab, and then try and build the sentences yourself, because there's a good chance you're going to get it wrong. That's what I'm trying to say here. However, grammar does play a useful part in the process. You can use grammar to help you understand the language. So the way I would use grammar is pretty much the way I see grammar. I don't see grammar as grammar itself. What I see grammar as is like specific words, because they are just combinations of words or particles or specific parts of the language, and they give off a certain meaning, right? They are used in a certain way to express a certain type of meaning in a sentence. So all you need to know is what that piece of grammar means. Not necessarily how it's used. You don't need to know how it's used and how it's going to be used in a sentence. You don't necessarily need to know that, because you don't want to output it yet and get it wrong. All you need to know is the meaning. So what meaning it has. So with more exposure to the language and using things like sentence mining and stuff to ingrain all the grammar into your head, you will find that you will quickly pick up all these grammar rules, right? And it won't be a case of you will pick them up like you would if you learned them from a textbook, and you'll be thinking about grammar and how it actually works. You will just naturally know what to say when the situation arises. Now, this won't happen for a long time. It takes a lot of listening and a lot of reading to get to that kind of level. However, once you do get to that level, and once you have done a lot of reading and a lot of listening, in the same time frame that you spent studying the language, if you compare that to someone else who studied it with traditional methods, say with textbooks and stuff, and tried to learn how to conjugate grammar and how to, do all this weird stuff, then you will find that you'll actually speak more naturally than they will, because you will have picked up phrases and the natural way of saying things that Japanese people, actually say themselves, compared to thinking about it like a maths equation. Okay, if you treat language like a maths equation, you're not going to get anywhere. You just end up sounding really, really stupid. You just sound like the average foreigner, pretty much. If you really want to get to a level where you sound quite natural, even if it's just a little bit, then you're going to need to listen to the language a lot, read it a lot, and as I say, learn what the pieces of grammar mean. What I would do in my process, what I normally do is I use a process called sentence mining to study sentences. A lot of people do this. It works really well if you're doing immersion because it helps you understand the content you're listening to and you're reading. And what you basically do is you take a sentence from a native source and you study each component. Generally, you want to go for a sentence that only has like one or two things that you don't know, and then you want to find out what those things mean. So what I would do is I would just treat grammar as words themselves. So look it up in a dictionary and then find out what the grammar means and put that on your flashcards, right? And that's it. You just treat grammar as if they're words. That's what I would do. Grammar does exist. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but from it is a man-made perspective. Like it is. It's not something that was already in the language. It's something that we've used to explain certain parts of the language that we can't define as words, right? So, from my point of view, as I just said, grammar does exist. It does exist. However, from my point of view, and from the method that I've used in AJAT and other immersion methods that use similar tactics, right, it is best to consider grammar as a subject that doesn't exist. It is best to consider grammar as something that... It's best to think of grammar as just words, right? The particles in Japanese, just consider them as words with certain meaning. Yes, the meaning isn't as... it's a bit more vague than specific words because they have a variety of uses. But that's what you just need to see them in lots of contexts. Once you see them like 1,000 times, you're going to have a good understanding of how they're used and in what kind of nuance they have, right? And that's the only real way that you're going to be able to, in the end, tell the difference between wa and ga and things like that, right? You're not going to... You can't really learn that kind of difference in nuance from a textbook. You really do have to sort of listen and read a lot to really get it and to then reproduce it naturally. So yeah, as I say, studying grammar, in my opinion, is completely useless. I wouldn't waste your time with a textbook and doing all your verb tables and stuff like that. Just get into reading the language, listening to the language, doing sentence mining and all that good stuff, and you will progress a lot faster, and you'll be a lot more pleased with your overall ability after about a year of doing that. If you want some more information as to where to go from here, then I'll put some links in the description below to other useful resources and videos that I think you will find useful. I've got some videos on sentence mining and I've got posts on that as well. If you're just starting to learn Japanese, I've just written a really long post on how to learn kanji really quickly and really easily. If you want more information about the method that I use, then you can check out my website in the description below, and if you would like to support me on Patreon, then I have even more useful content on there. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, bye. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Diedrich, Eric, and everybody else who's supporting me on Patreon right now. You guys mean so much to me. If you are not a patron yet and you're interested in learning languages, then I highly recommend you come over to my Patreon. I do some exclusive content over there. I also upload my sentence decks on there, my Anki sentence decks, which are sub-stress ones. They are from TV shows, so they're really, really high quality sentence decks which you can use to sentence mine and study Japanese in a really efficient manner. It just allows me to create more content, so if you are liking the content that I'm making, then definitely come on over and check it out. And yeah, thank you so much guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.